Hello, welcome to our Walking Better to Walk More workshop. So I'm Professor Helen Dawes, and with me I have Dr. Johnny Collett, and we're based in the Centre for Movement, Occupational and Rehabilitation Sciences here at Oxford Brookes. And this work is done in collaboration with our colleagues, Professor Nancy Mayo, Kedar Mate, and Dr. Ted Hill and Ahmed Abu Shark, who are based at McGill University and in physiobiometrics. So the whole point of this afternoon is to get you up and running and give you a little taster to walking better and walking more. And so to do that, we're going to run a workshop that we would like you to join in. So we would like you to make sure that you're in the right clothes, so you've got some sensible walking gear on, so nice shoes, and that you've got enough space to carry out the activity, and that you've got a nice safe chair to sit down on in between the activities. So what I'd like to do now is pass over to Johnny, who's going to introduce you to walking better. So Johnny, over to you.
Hello, everybody. So yes, I'm just going to give a short little background talk about walking, why it's important, and a little bit about why it's important to walk better. So bipedal walking is an important aspect of being a human. We're one of the few species that actually walk upright on two legs, and that is because it's a tricky, complex thing to do. It's inherently unstable, but we've become highly evolved to do this. So our skeletons have changed, our feet have changed, so we no longer have opposable digits on our feet, which would be really handy but aren't so great for walking on. But we often take this task for granted. We often take walking for granted. So independent living strongly depends on walking, as it allows us to accomplish many of the tasks we do in our everyday lives. Now, the built environment has got better at enabling people who do may have difficulty walking accomplish things, but actually it's still very important for many of the things we do to be able to walk well. So those who have more difficulty walking, so this could be through injury or illness, often cite improving walking as a main priority of the things that they want to get better. So being able to walk in the community is consistently associated with a better quality of life, and that's across many different conditions. When we look at someone's quality of life, it relates very much to their ability to be able to walk in the community. But walking is also an important way in which we achieve physical activity. So we do have to use energy to walk around. So what are the health benefits of being more physically active? So we all know that it's good for us to be more physically active, but as you can see here from this diagram, it reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease by up to 35%, type 2 diabetes by up to 40%. It reduces our risk of certain cancers. It's good for our mental health. It reduces the risk of hip fractures by up to 68%, and it's also good for our brains as well, and reduces the risk of dementia. And considering all of that, all-cause mortality is reduced by 30% by being more active. And walking is actually the main activity people do to be active. So this is from Sport England's Active Live survey, and we can see activities taken part at least twice in the last 28 days. Walking for leisure and walking for travel are the activities that have been taken part in most. And we can see, more fitness of activities are taken part less often. So as we get older, walking becomes even more important. So these graphs here are from data from Scotland, and this is in people across different age groupings, and these are people who are physically active. But you can see even these people are deemed to achieve sufficient physical activity. As we get older, for both men and women, physical activity tends to get less. But when we look at the proportion of the physical activity done according to the activity that's being done, we can see that walking becomes the main way in which we achieve our physical activity as we get older. So when people are younger, they take part in more team sports and more exercise and fitness activities, and also activity through their work. As we get older, we tend to do less of this and achieve our physically active lifestyles through walking. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're highly evolved to walk on our two legs, and that's because it is a very efficient way of getting around. And this is because the cyclic pattern, moving from one leg to the other, allows energy to be conserved in that cycle. So we modeled that as an inverted pendulum. So the potential energy used to raise the center of mass is then converted into kinetic energy as we fall forward over our leg, which is then recycled as that forward momentum is then used to raise our center of mass again. So I have a little Monty Python type diagram, courtesy of a colleague, Patrick Esser, who kind of shows this. So we swing our leg like a pendulum, but then when that leg heel strikes, it actually vaults our center of mass up over that leg, and then we take our leg off the ground and we swing it again. And that's occurring on the other side as well. And that's that reciprocal pattern that makes walking very, very efficient. But that efficiency is very dependent on the speed we walk at. And that's to do with the pendulum mechanics. So it's based, the most efficient walking speeds are around 1.2 meters per second, depending on our leg length. So it's because of the natural frequency of those pendulums. So at what rate those pendulums want to swing. But when we get older, we tend to start walking slower. So if you see the graph on the left, we can see this shows that the amount of energy it takes to walk a meter is a lot more at slower walking speeds. It becomes optimum at about 1.2 meters per second. And then as we walk faster beyond that 1.2 meters per second value, dependent on leg length, we use more energy to walk per meter again. And as you can see, we naturally walk at around these most efficient walking speeds. That's the walking speeds we want to walk at. And we do this very well when we're younger, but as we get older, we can see that walking speed reduces. And accompanying that, we also walk a bit differently. And so our posture changes and we might be more hunched over, and we tend to get a more shuffling gait and don't have so much of that heel strike. So that makes the walking much less efficient. And when it gets less efficient, obviously it takes more effort and it feels harder. We have to think about it more, so it doesn't come as naturally to us, and it makes our ability to do lots of things at the same time as we're walking that little bit harder. And as a result, as it feels harder, we all know if something feels harder, we don't want to do it so much, which might lead us in the context of walking to walking less. And then we get into this cycle of deconditioning where it becomes more difficult to walk. So we do it less, and then it becomes even more difficult. So now I'm going to pass back on to Helen, who's gonna show you some techniques of how you might be able to practice to improve and walk better.
Thank you, Johnny. That was a really interesting introduction. So hopefully I'm now going to introduce you to some practical solutions to engage your brain to walk better, stronger, faster, longer, stronger. And then hopefully, if you're walking better, you should be able to walk more. So one of the most common challenges, as Johnny has alluded to, is faced by older people relates to walking. And that comes back to the fact that we're walking on two legs, which makes it harder to balance, but it has the advantages of being able to get around for less effort and be able to reach up, etc. So what we're going to go through in this video session, in this workshop, is various walking methods to get you going. And then we'll be able to link these. We've got a series of videos that we can then introduce you to, which actually spend a little bit more time on each of the activities that we show you. So this is just a taster really, which is developed out of research and also from clinical practice as well. So before we start, just make sure that you've got comfy shoes on. We're going to do lots of walking, funnily enough, this afternoon. Make sure you've got a nice chair, a bit like the ones that we're sat on, and that you've got space to walk around. Make sure you've got someone nearby in case you do feel that you might lose your balance. But obviously, only take part in these activities if you feel that you're able to and you feel safe. So what I'm going to do now is introduce you to the first activity. And this is starting to think about one of the key aspects of walking is making sure that your feet clear the ground, so you don't trip over anything as you go. Now, one really key way to do this is to make sure that you have contact with your heel first, so that when you're walking, your heel hits the ground and then you roll over your foot. So what I'm going to do in the activities is I'll demonstrate the walking first. So I think for this one, look at my feet. And then what I'm going to do, and you can see as I'm walking there, that I've very much hit the ground with my heel first. So a slightly exaggerated style there. And I'm going to come back. And now you can see that Celia here, who's very kindly agreed to come in, is doing her first walk with her heel hitting the ground. You can very much see a nice clear heel hitting the ground. And you can also see that when you do this, it does make sure that you swing your leg nicely and that you clear the ground during the swing with your foot. So it's a really good activity. You can also see that as we get going, that Celia is starting to walk a little bit more naturally. So as soon as we change activity, you need to be careful to make sure that you practice this until it feels natural, so that you practice walking up and down. Now, the next thing we're going to start to think about is actually pushing off with your feet, so that once you're comfy with walking with your heel to toe, the next step is to push off forwards, bending your foot to push with your toes as you roll over your foot. So what you need to think about now is remember to focus on walking heel to toe, but then as you take a step, if you look at my feet, I'm really pushing off with my feet, pushing forward. So you get your heel down, heel off, and push off with your toes. So again, you're going to need to practice this so that you get into the rhythm. So if we look at Celia now walking, you can see she's walking, thinking about it. So you can see she's a little bit stiff as she walks. And then we'll see her come up and down. So she's getting her heel down and pushing forward as she goes. So the other thing, I don't know if you can notice, but she's just by doing that, she started to take much bigger strides. So she's sort of pushing forwards as she goes. And you can see as she gets into this that she starts to relax a little bit, and she's starting to move her arms a bit. But you can see by doing this, Celia's not really moving her arms that much. So just keep practicing any pattern until it feels more natural. So I think this leads us nicely into the next activity, which is to start thinking about swinging your arms when you walk. So you probably have noticed watching Celia, and certainly when you do it, that as you focus in on your feet, heel to toe, pushing off with your toes, that your arms don't move as well. And swinging your arms when you walk is very important. So there I'm just demonstrating a swinging arms. So you can see that I'm swinging my arms quite a lot. And one thing we've noticed that people, as they get a bit older, they tend to swing their arms less. So you can see Celia's thinking here about this a little bit too much. So she's starting to walk a little bit. That's better. So she's starting to relax a little bit. But you can see she's got this nice heel strike, big long steps, and that she's swinging her arms. Now your arms are really, really important because it helps you to balance, helps you to walk with longer, stronger strides. It's also efficient. So there's been studies that have looked at how much you swing your arms and the efficiency of your walking. So arm swings is a really, it helps you to return and regain your energy as you're walking. So again, just remembering as you go to practice this until the whole thing feels more natural. So we're now going to have a think about posture when you're walking. As you get older, you tend to lean forward. And this is mainly because as you get older, your head is quite heavy, and over a period of time, you've been leaning forward, and the weight of your head tends to drag down. So people tend to get a bit of a curve in their spine that they lean forward. The other factor is because you have less good senses about where your body is in space, your eyesight, your hearing, again, you tend to look down, and you can see that demonstrating that here, I'm looking down as I'm walking, and that actually is another problem of wearing masks. So you can see as I walk back, I'm starting to think about my posture. So walking forward and back is quite a good way to get a person to think about their posture, because as you can see, as I'm going forward, I'm naturally leaning forward, looking down, but as you go back, you tend to stand up. And then you gradually move into a pattern of walking forwards and backwards, be standing up. So you can see Celia's here having a go now. And as she goes forwards, having watched me, she's looking ahead really nicely, and she's going forward and back. So this is quite a good way to do, and you can actually get the person to stand up against a door, because then you can check your posture to see how you're doing. And you can see that Celia's doing a great job here by making sure she walks forward, she's getting her heels down, she's striding out, pushing forward, swinging her arms. So this is quite a nice exercise to do. And then if you check yourself against the wall, you can make sure that you move back to the wall. So you can see that nice position there of standing up tall. So this is a great way to try and get yourself standing up tall. So you can see Celia's there, and checking your posture. So you can see we're just discussing walking here with Celia, and she just mentions that when she turns her head, she finds that it makes her almost lose balance and fall over. And this is definitely a problem in older people, because they're often reliant on looking down at their body to make sure they know where they are in space. So we're going to have a look at turning the head, and it's one of our exercises that we practice during walking. But we'll do that a little bit later on in the workshop. So what we're going to do now is really push an activity for people about lifting their legs. So I'm going to just demonstrate lifting legs up high. And this is important because as you get older, you tend to take shorter shuffling steps. And so what we do here is, you can see I'm practicing just walking along, lifting my feet up high as I go. So it's just stepping up high. And you can do this holding on to a chair if you want, or you can just practice walking and stepping and lifting your feet up off the ground. And when you do it, try and lift your toes up. So you can see I'm just lifting square feet as I go and lifting my feet. So it's a way to break this pattern of taking small shuffling steps, but then you need to integrate it afterwards with nice heel to toe walks. Now, I think what we're slightly aware of, and you'll find this as well, when you're practicing all these activities, you'll find it hard to walk normally in a relaxed way. So you can see that Celia's walking here and she's really trying hard to do the heel to toe, swinging her arms. And it all gets a little bit stiff because you start thinking so much about how you're walking that you start to walk in a slightly strange way. So what we're doing here, you can just see Celia, we're just practicing and letting Celia walk and just get into her rhythm. And you can see that she is relaxing and just starting to step out really, but maintaining that really good heel to toe and good stepping out as she's walking up and down. So that's a good idea for you to do. Have a practice of trying to just walk and relax. And we were in a tight space here, but you can go outside and get outside walking and just practicing the activities that you've learned. So if you do find this workshop interesting, what we can do is we can forward you the videos for each of the activities where we focus a whole session on an activity, and you've got a lot more time and also some extra exercises to really improve each of the tasks that we set you. Yeah. So as you get older, you'll tend to take shorter, slower steps. So what we're working on now is trying to find your best stepping rate or your cadence. And that's the number of steps you take a minute. And this what can be adjusted. So obviously, if you take more steps in a minute, you're walking faster and you're walking at a higher intensity, and it can give you a better training effect. But everybody has their best cadence and one that suits them better. So what we're doing here is Celia is working, trying to find her ideal cadence. So you can see here, we start with a very slow cadence and Celia's having to walk slowly. And you can see it doesn't really suit her. As you can see that she's not walking as well as she was before, not as naturally, and that she's not swinging her arms and everything's got out of sync. So sometimes you can see that walking too slowly can make you alter your pattern, and then it becomes a lot more effort, and that looks quite effortful for me. Celia's kind of swinging the wrong arm with the wrong leg. Okay, so I think as we keep going here, what we will do is as we get faster, you can see that then Celia actually gets into a better rhythm. There we go, that's it. And then she's kind of walking a lot better. So you can imagine this was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of walking in this. So in 15 minutes, we've pulled the walking apart and put it back together again. But you can see here that we're just using a metronome actually, just on the phone. And you can do this. You can just download a metronome, start off with a cadence of about 70 beats per minute, and then just up it by 10 beats per minute. And just work out what your best cadence is. And then this gives you a guidance for your optimal walking speed. What's the best speed for you? What's the least effort? And that will help you walk better and enjoy your walking a bit more, so you can keep going for longer. So you can just see that Celia's just practicing up and down now with the different speeds and walking a little bit faster. So, and probably, I think on this, Celia's best walking speed was about 100 beats per minute, which is quite fast. So she's a fairly fast walker. And then I think as soon as we went too fast, we went a bit faster than that, she began to look a little bit uncomfy. But you can definitely see that as she walks faster, that she's walking a lot better. and a lot more relaxed. And then I think now it's just starting to get a little bit too much like hard work. So I think what you can see here is that we've gone through different activities and paces to work out the best cadence for Celia. So we'll just watch her walking a little bit faster. And then we'll have a little bit of a rest, and then have a look at a couple more activities. So what we've done there, and Celia's doing really well because she's just keeping the nice heel to toe activities and holding it together. And you can see here, we're just discussing again, turning heads. So often you find as you get older, if you try and do two things at once, because you're not as able to rely on your eyes, ears, and your body positioning, because the senses just get a little bit slower and a little bit less sensitive as you get older, you can often be good to practice moving your head as an activity. And we've got some other activities that you can try. So you can just see I'm walking along there with my head to the left and coming back again and turning the other way and just keeping that pace going. But you might find that you feel like you need to slow down when that happens. So obviously pick a nice safe spot to do this, but you can practice turning your head from side to side as you're walking along. Don't do it too fast. It should be nice and slow. So, because obviously if you suddenly turn your head around, you're going to make yourself feel dizzy. And you can see Celia's just practicing her walking again, and she's got that nice heel to toe, swinging her arms and pushing off. And then I think what I have noticed is we started to think about turning her head. She's definitely slowed down her pace and just started to reduce her step length. So if you practice that, you can practice turning your head and maintaining your walking pattern as you keep going. So I think that's probably coming towards the end of our various activities, and that's the end of the video there. So thank you very much for joining us on the workshop. It was intended just to give you a taste of how you could walk better and how then this may impact on how well you walk and the fact you'll walk stronger and be able to walk for longer. So this is the website of our partners over in Canada, Physio Biometrics. And on this website, you can see there's a few activities. So on the right-hand side, it's our chair-based exercise program that we developed here at Brookes, also Brookes University. And then on the left-hand side, we've got the Walk Best workbook. So this takes you a little bit further from the activities that we have been doing this afternoon. It takes you through each of those in a little bit more detail, and it shows you some exercises for each of them. So it gives you some exercises for the heel to toe, how to check your feet, how to make sure your feet are moving properly, gives you some exercises for your posture and how to work on your posture, check your posture regularly and make that improve your posture. It has exercises for walking and talking, thinking at the same time as you move. And it also has some exercises to help strengthen up various bits of your body, to strengthen up your muscles, to help your posture or to help your walking, and your leg muscles as well, that can help you have stronger muscles on your legs to help you get up and down and walk up and down hills. So this is a nice resource, and you can contact Physio Biometrics if you want. You can show, you can ask for some videos. They've got the videos. You can drop them a line there. So this is quite nice, and you can look through the various activities. So what I'm going to do is say thank you very much now, and I'm going to pass back to Johnny, who's going to chat a little bit about some of the activities going on here at Brookes, some of our research that you might want to take part in.
Okay, thank you, Helen. So I just thought I would show you the website for our research centre, the Centre for Movement, Occupational and Rehabilitation Sciences. And so obviously over the past year, our research activities have been rather curtailed, but at this website, you can find out about different studies, the public patient involvement. So getting involved in how you can actually direct the research we do. And you can see about our different research groups. So within the centre, we have clinically applied nutrition, clinical exercise and rehabilitation, movement science group, which through this group, we've done a lot of the work looking at how much energy it takes to walk, etc. And through the clinical exercise and rehabilitation group, we've looked at how this physical activity, this walking, improves people's health. And we've also got the occupational science group that can look at more how through these activities we can participate in activities that are meaningful for us and help us live our lives better. So thank you very much for listening, and that's it for now. Thank you.
Great. So that's the end of the prepared video, and there's been some nice comments in the chat about the helpfulness of it, and questions about access to that video. I'll just put my email address in the chat. I'm not sure how long it's going to be before we can get the video up on the website. So if any of you want a copy of that video, I know Rosemary was saying it would be useful to use it within the next week. So email me and I will send you a copy of that. And if we've got another question from Margaret about the link for the text. So I'll just put the web address in the chat as well. So that's easier to see. So that starts off with the general Brookes address and then goes, I must make sure I get this right. I think if you Google Moores at Brookes, you should be able to find it, but I'll put the web link up there as well. Just do that now. So does anyone else have any other questions or comments? If you could put those in the chat again. So we've got people off to practice their walking. I'm going to have a go myself. I've noticed I've been stumbling a bit more in the last few weeks, and so going to do that heel and toe. Please do use those ideas with walking groups and spread the word. And I think as Helen and Johnny said, there's the opportunity to make contact through the website if you've got ideas for further work, further research. Margaret, completely agree. Sitting in front of screens so much hasn't helped for a lot of people. I've ended up with getting a standing desk, which keeps me on my toes a bit more. But I think, yeah, I found that talk really interesting. Just a lot of stuff that you take completely for granted, and changes that can happen over time without you really noticing. So a nice way to focus attention. Right. Sarah also standing up to watch it. Good. And hopefully the weather's good enough to get out there and do a bit of practicing. In terms of joining the research, Rosemary, if you drop me an email, I'll pass that on to Helen. Yeah, if just let me know your contact details, and I'll pass that on. I'm not sure exactly what stage that research is at now in terms of the next bits of activity, but Helen would be keen to hear from you. Great, got your details there, so I'll pass that on. Right, enjoy your walking and spread the word. Thanks very much for joining us today, and hopefully that's a good contribution to Move More Month. So take care.